Welcome to the podcast where we take a deep dive into the stories behind construction business leaders. We will share how they got started, how they found success, and the lessons learned along the way. I'm your host, Eric Fortenberry. Welcome to Builder Stories. Welcome back, everybody. Today I am here with John Utter, who is with StrongTower Build and Remodeling in Cadiz, Kentucky. Welcome to Builder Stories, John.
Hey, thanks, Eric. Glad to be here.
Yeah, appreciate you coming on. So why don't you tell us a little bit about, how did you get into construction and what does StrongTower Build and Remodeling do?
Sure. I'm an accidental carpenter, Eric. I graduated from college many years ago with a degree in animal science. And so, yeah, obviously I just became a carpenter. Well, when I graduated there, I couldn't find anything in my career track, and my parents were like, "We love you dearly, but please find something to do." So, I went to work for a local builder. I'm originally from Northern Illinois. Went to work for a local builder there, and started carrying lumber for the rest of the carpenters. And it was probably one of the best ways to learn the trade because when I would get all the carpenters stocked, they would just pull me over and be like, "All right, let's show you how to do something here." So literally started as a guy with his bachelor's carrying 2x4s for some crusty old guys that taught me the trade.
Awesome.
So
Well, everybody's got to start somewhere, though. I mean, it sounds like you probably developed even more of appreciation for it, though, since you sort of grew up in it.
absolutely. So yeah, we started off. The guys I started for, we were doing, smaller homes at the time, but we did small homes and remodels. And then the GC we were working for, he kind of stepped it up a bit. And so in our the second year working for him, we built 75 homes that year. They're all kind of the spec house type homes. So we went from doing I'd say they're kind of customs, but we went from smaller customs to, just a big production home builder. So that was quite a quite a way to grow up, going from one end to the other.
Yeah.
Well,
And so tell me, so Strong Tower, how did that all come about?
yeah, exactly. So after bouncing around with that original general contractor and then going to work for some guys that I went to high school with, building big customs in the Chicago area, I did eventually find a job in my career track, and I worked for a couple large Angus cattle ranches, but I had some family here in Cadiz, Kentucky, and they were building log homes at the time, doing big custom log homes, and they invited me to come up here and work with them. So, so we moved from Georgia up here, and I started working for them, and uh, life happens, and they moved away, and I bounced around a little bit here and there. Taught high school for a minute, taught construction in the local high school for a while. Did a couple other things, but I always kind of came back to the construction. And at one point, I was just like, "This is kind of what I know." So I was the Chuck in the truck for a while. I was him, and so I did that, and then probably in I don't know, 2017, 2018, somewhere in that area, I decided, this is either gonna be a hobby or I gotta go to town and work for somebody. We gotta step this thing up. So about that time is when I really started to get serious about making this a business. And so since that time, and then since the pandemic really is when we really exploded and really started to get busy. So it took me a while to get real serious about becoming a business.
Sure.
Worked a long time in the trade, and totally respect all the craftsmen out there for sure. But it took me, kind of a crisis moment where you're either gonna do this or you're not.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the long and short of it.
And so when, I started off as a self-proclaimed truck in the truck, what were you doing? What types of jobs were you doing back then early on?
Absolutely. So, I mean, anything one guy could complete
Yep.
on his own without bringing anybody in. So, kitchen remodels, bathroom remodels, decks, um, I wasn't getting into any heavy framing, that's for sure. Um, but just anything a one man show could accomplish, all the way down to, you know, uh, I hated it, but I did it anyway. Painting, I would do that too. So just literally whatever it took.
And how were people finding out about you? I assume you didn't have a website at that point, probably not
Didn't have a
running.
website, didn't have anything really. We live in a small rural area, so word travels fast around here.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was all word of mouth.
And I'm curious, I mean, like, so, again, kind of in those early days, like when you sold a job, what did that process look like at
Mm,
that time for you? Someone
was
someone
just
calls you?
just yeah, somebody just calls you up and says, "Hey, I heard you can build me a deck." Like, absolutely. So you just run over there real quick. Don't do any qualifications, any qual call, anything like that. You just go see the guy. And you get beat up on price a lot. Oh my gosh, so and so can do it for this, and that sort of thing. And um so I took a lot of jobs, um just for thinking I was making money, but I really wasn't. But you took it because at the time you just kind of needed to.
Yeah.
um So that's kinda what the process looked like. There was no process, Eric. I mean, it was just the guy calls, you go see him, strike up a deal, and go for it. Very
Yeah.
unscientific.
So just collecting the check was the goal, is just get paid for whatever you can do at
Just get
whatever
paid for
price.
whatever you do. You give the guy a price, and had no reference on what you were quoting. You had no historical numbers to go off of. You had no data points at all to go off of. You just kinda going, "Well, that sounds good," and, "Hey, everybody else is charging, doing a cost plus 20, so yeah, that sounds great. So I guess that's what we'll do too," and doesn't always work.
Yeah. So how did you get yourself into any jobs where you felt like you were way over your head, or you just
Oh, yeah.
started going under and you see the profits just gone and now you're digging into your pocket?
Absolutely. Yeah, that happens a lot. I think that happens a lot to guys when they first start on their own. It's very tempting to look at guys who are doing it, or especially if you're working for somebody, and you're like, man, I'm only bringing home this, and I know the job cost this, and they must be fat cats. They must really be rolling in it. But it's not until you're doing it on your own and you start to understand some of the principles of things, like, yeah, um, yeah, we, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah. So what was it that kind of was there like an aha moment, or was there like a, okay, I'm broke and I've been doing all these jobs, like what exactly, how did you realize that that there had to be a better way and that you needed to make a transition?
Absolutely. Um, well, yeah, I mean, you're doing all this work and you're not getting anywhere. Like, how can this be?
Yeah.
Your calendar is full. You got all these jobs, but at the end of the month, there's no money. How is this happening? So it was just a matter of, hey, we got to get serious here, or we're not going to be around for very long at all.
Yeah.
We'll be doing work for somebody. And I really did think that at one point in time, that, like, hey, I'm just cut out to be a cabinet installer or a trim carpenter or something. Not knocking those guys at all.
Sure.
Totally, but I was like, but I really didn't wanna go work for somebody else.
Yeah.
Um, I really loved the creative aspect of it, and I really loved, enjoying seeing a project completed and seeing our customers happy.
Sure.
And so I was just like, there's gotta be a better way if we're gonna stay in this business for a while. So that was kind of our aha moment. And, we I started investigating different online coaching systems, business systems, because um, hey, carpenters traditionally just aren't good businessmen. Um, Super good at the trade, but we're just, there's it seemed like when I grew up, the whole business thing was a big secret. You could even ask uh, the guys you were working for, well, how do you bid this?
Hmm.
And it either was a big secret, or they just didn't even know either. I mean, they were just flying by the seat of their pants too. So there was a whole bunch of, trial and error, digging into different systems, um, and there was also a whole lot of flying by the seat of my pants too to figure out what I was doing wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, that was smart to start kind of looking to see who else, might be out there that could help you because, I find a lot of people don't realize that, it's like you don't have to go at this alone. There are these groups, there are coaches, there's mentors, there's, kind of different groups of people who have already kind of gone through that who could help you. So I'm curious kind of what did you find and like what were you looking for first? Like did you know that you needed to focus on figuring out how to better, estimate or looking to improve your sales or, wanted to, start understanding the job cost? I mean, kind of what was the
Right.
go-to like, oh my God, I need to fix this and this first.
Right, right. I think I think sales was probably the big driver first, Eric. I enjoy talking to people, and I kind of found the sales aspect a little bit more approachable. Because to me, it's just a conversation, trying to figure out what folks want and how to provide that for them.
Yeah.
Uh, I wasn't perfect at it. I'm still not perfect at it, but it seemed to me to be the low hanging fruit. So I worked on my sales a little bit. Actually, after I taught school and before I formed Strong Tower, I was in sales for a short amount of time. Um, so I kind of, developed some chops there. But um, so I worked on the sales for a little bit, but the things that really intimidated me were estimating and job costing. Those were the things that just were like, I don't know what numbers to put where, how do you do this, that sort of thing. So those were the sales seemed to be the low hanging fruit to me,
Yep.
but the other systems were the ones that were shrouded in mystery.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I definitely find that people sort of gravitate towards, towards the sales or towards the operation, the construction, kind of everything else. There's really these two kind of natural camps, and you typically find yourself in one or the other. So obviously, if you had some sales background, it made sense to go, you know, fine tune those skills first. And I mean, did you
Right.
find that even without doing anything else, like were you able to, kind of, I guess, close more jobs? Were you trying to sell at a higher, at a higher price point than maybe what you were doing before? Like instead of just taking whatever they threw back at you or whatever pushback, like did you sort of figure out how to no, this is where we're at. We can't come down, like kind of learning to hold that line. I think is
Yeah.
something that can be very uncomfortable for people.
It's really uncomfortable, and a case in point, I had bid on a really, really cool kitchen, and I had thought I had worked up my numbers really. For me, it was like a super expensive kitchen.
Yeah.
I still get this to this day. Before I turn in a proposal, like, sometimes I look at the bottom number and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, they're never gonna do this."
Yeah.
But this was a few years back, and the number was pretty high, especially for this area. I'm like, "I'm just gonna go for it," because I figured I had done my due diligence. I had estimated this thing down to the 2 by 4. I knew what this kitchen was gonna cost, and doggone it, I knew what I was worth, you know? And so I gave them the number, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, there's just no way. There's absolutely no way." And they're like, "You need to go back and sharpen your pencil." So I kinda went home like a whoop puppy, thinking about it. And I called them up like 2 days later, and I was like, I've been thinking a whole lot about it, and that price I gave you is the price this is gonna be." And it just got uncomfortably quiet on the phone, and they said, "Well, I guess we'll go with somebody else then." And I was like, "I wish you well." And at that moment, I was like, in the moment, I thought I was gonna die. Like, I thought I had just walked away from this great big job, but I didn't, I was learning what it cost to produce a job. I was learning what I was worth. Um, and since then, oh my gosh, it just opened up the floodgates for other bigger projects and folks that are willing to work with you and see your vision and understand the value that you bring to the job, not just the bottom line.
Yeah. And so were you still, I assume you're self-performing all this work at that time too?
I was doing all the stuff, by that time my electrician, my plumber, my HVAC guy, all that stuff, but I was doing everything, man. I was doing all of it. I did have a drywaller. I wasn't doing drywall.
Yeah.
So
And so was the, I mean, so from a sales standpoint, I mean, like when you kind of think about your biggest sort of lessons learned, I mean, what advice might you give to others if, you know, if they're in a similar situation and they need to, you know, they've got a sales issue, like what, you know, what would you
yeah.
say?
Well, there's no experience like experience, right? So get out there and do it. Take your licks. You know, you're gonna get beat up and you got to get back in there and do it again. So there's this whole persistence thing, this whole persistence mindset where you just gotta keep knocking at the doors. In the meantime, there's ways to get better at it without, you know, losing your shirt. So, um, yeah, I would say the most important thing is to know what the job actually costs. You know what that job actually costs, know what margins you need to have as a business to bring home your desired profit, the desired profit margin that you want, and then engineer the project in reverse almost. Um, that's the biggest thing. That was the biggest light bulb moment for me was like, okay, I need to make this amount of money to accomplish these things, to make a profit, and then just work the job backwards.
You know, so I guess that's kind of where the learning how to, you know, to better estimate, do the job costing. I mean, how did you learn those skills?
I'm still not very good at them, Eric. But you know, we use JobTread, and so JobTread's been really, really helpful at tracking costs now and seeing where we're bleeding cash or where we're making cash. And it's really simple. Where we're bleeding cash, either we just don't do those things anymore, or you know, there's some things we're just not supposed to do. That's
Yeah.
what I figured out. We're not efficient. We have no business doing it. So let's not do those things anymore. Or if it's just a matter of, hey, what did we miss here? Can we get better at it? The job costing really tells a big. It tells you it's really eye-opening. It's really frustrating at first. So you have to go into it with the mindset of being a student, because the numbers won't lie to you, um, and they don't care about your feelings. So, if you're not tough-skinned enough, you'll take it the wrong way. Um, so it's all it is just a snapshot of where you're at in any moment of time, and how are you gonna, you know, how are you doing? What's the health of your business like? How can I improve? What things do we need to be doing? That sort of thing. That's all it
Yeah.
is.
No, that's so true. And you know, I meet people all the time who, you know, for one reason or another, they continually come up with excuses why, you know, they can't and won't do the job costing, and they won't take the time, you know, to see how are they performing. And it's such an insightful process that, you know, once you really kind of get the hang of it and you start running your jobs doing that, like you start to like not ever want to not do it because you go back to feeling like you're flying blind. So how did you, you know, kind of how did you kind of force yourself to start doing it, and how did you incorporate this into your process? Like, you know, at the end of every day, at the end of every week, like when did you stop and start entering your expenses and try to really understand where we miss bidding these jobs or where we miss running them?
Right, right. Probably right before it was probably in 2018, 2019 is when I really started getting serious about it. And what made me get serious about it is I hired a bookkeeper. And that's because I still don't like entering that stuff, you know. It's easier, like, if there's something I'm not good at, I'll just find somebody that's better, you know? Um, I think so that's not me letting go of responsibility. That's me having somebody better than me do something. So that was the big impetus, was having somebody else do the inputs and produce the reports and, you know, weekly, "Hey, here's where you're at," that sort of thing.
Yeah.
That was the big thing there. That's what really did it.
Yeah. Well, I
So,
mean,
you
good
have
on
good
you
people
for,
work you have good people working for you, it makes all the difference.
yeah, I mean, good on you though for being able to recognize that, hey, this isn't going to be my strong suit, and I need to find somebody though who can make sure that we do these tasks because it's so important. Like, again, so many people just kind of, they think if they just don't want to do something, they don't focus on it, it'll somehow just work itself out and life will be okay. And we're just going to keep our head down and keep doing what we're doing, and things are going to just get better. And it's like, that's not the reality, right? Like, you got to invest your time and build a team and make sure that you've got all of the resources around the table to do the blocking and tackling and to do the things that are going to help you to improve. And, I think it's a very short-sighted thing to kind of just keep kicking that can down the road when, you know that you got to have a better understanding on your numbers. And, for you hiring a bookkeeper, I mean, awesome, man. That one way or another, you started getting that insight and you could start seeing how and where your bleeders were. Cause like once you can find them, then you can start plugging those holes and you can prevent yourself from doing the same things over and over and over again.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, and again, you know, I had to learn not to take the numbers personal.
Yeah.
They tell you the truth. They tell and there were some times where I was like, "Oh man, that's embarrassing," or "Oh my gosh, I can't believe," that's where you gotta have a little bit of a tough if you're gonna stay in this business, you have to have a little bit of a tough skin
Yeah.
and be able to, again, persist and, just, you're either gonna do this or you're not. But you're right, you can't bury your head in the sand and just focus over here
Yeah.
without focusing on this over here. It's not you can't do that.
So when you said that you uncovered areas where you just weren't efficient. Like, are these kind of like certain trades? And then how did you figure out, like, were you estimating the number of hours it was going to take you, and then you tracked your hours and found that maybe your production rate wasn't what you thought it was?
Yep, that's exactly right. So
Yeah.
we had some in-house guys for a while, and, on smaller remodels, the guys that I had could do a little bit of everything. That's awesome, but they're generalists, not specialists, right? So, um, yeah, we were just misappropriating hours, miscalculating hours to do a certain task where it would have been much faster if I would just would have subbed it out
Yeah.
right from the get-go, you know? And, can we do it? Absolutely. Can we make it look good? There's somebody that's faster and can do a better job.
Yeah.
That's the guy we need to be using. And so
Yeah.
that's what we discovered. And so now we sub everything out. We don't have any in-house guys at all at Strong
Interesting.
Tower.
So you did have some in-house, and now you've kind of shifted to the subcontractor model. And that's a very common debate amongst contractors is kind of
Agreed.
knowing when, and why and how, and what to do to make that shift. And it sounds like for you, you just realized like you could actually be more efficient, deliver higher quality. And as long as you can take whatever those subs, whatever they bid that work for, and you just add it to your budget and get your margin on top. Like, as long as you can keep selling it, then yeah, it makes total sense to
Sure.
leverage people who specialize and can get out there and get it done, right the first time and get it done quicker.
Exactly. Yeah. Their impetus is, hey, we've quoted this job to Strong Tower at this price. We better get it done at this price. We better I put the burden on them
Yeah.
instead of putting the burden on me. And I like it. It's worked good. It's worked very good. So I'm really expecting, we just are we just kind of made the we've been using more and more sub labor for quite a while, but it'll be, oh gosh, just a couple months ago is when we made the big switch to when we're 100% sub-based. So,
Nice.
it'll be kinda fun to see what the next, couple quarters bring.
Yeah. So we kind of jumped straight to job costing, but kind of taking a step back to your estimating process. Like, how
Yeah.
did that change, and kind of what changes did you make there to improve on that?
Well, again, I kinda put the risk on the subcontractor. So, we used to walk the job when it was all in-house. I would walk the job with my guys and be like, "Alright, here's the scope of work. Help me put this estimate together," and I had guys that had years of experience with me, you know, "Here's our scope of work. Help me put a estimate together. How long do you think this is gonna take?"
Yeah.
And, inevitably we were off. We were just off. And so now it's just a little different because um my subs are kind of, when they sign the dotted line, they're that I really expect them to hold to that number.
Yeah.
So it's made estimating a lot easier. Um, it's just made estimating a lot easier.
Yeah. And are you still doing the material procurement? Are you buying your materials?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I mean, rough lumber, that sort of thing. Uh if it's a specialty trade, electricians, plumbers, they know what they need.
Sure.
They'll figure all that stuff for me.
Gotcha.
Absolutely.
And so what would you say, like, kind of the biggest sort of transition though, when you went from your old ways to your new ways, like in regards to just kind of how you operate the business, you personally, as well as kind of the rest of the business, like what transition, what changes have you seen through that transition?
Ooh, that's a good question. Uh well, um we still do our fair share of smaller jobs, but we're doing larger and larger jobs all the time, which is
Okay.
kind of fun. So I think folks are recognizing our value. Um I think I've gotten better at the sales process. I don't know if I'm directly answering your question or
Yeah.
not, but um I think we've gotten better at the sales process. Um Yeah, I think just doing higher value work lately
Yeah.
is seems to be, we've grown into the higher value projects. We're not just doing I'm not the chuck in the truck anymore.
Yeah.
So,
And are you still kind of running one job at a time, or have you started taking on more
oh
jobs?
no. So I brought on a young man this summer, who kind of is, eventually will be a project manager, but right now we call him a logistics manager. Um, so he He handles scheduling and, just like it sounds, logistics. He gets materials to the job site for me. He'll handle, all that kind of scheduling. So that's freed me up a whole bunch, to focus on, developing relationships with homeowners, recruiting new subcontractors and biz dev, opening up new areas for us.
So you
So
spend most of your time now kind of focused on the kind of the relationships with the homeowners and bringing in new jobs. I mean, are you staying involved once the job is sold as well?
I am. So I'll stay, I'm the homeowner's point of contact, so and eventually we'll get a dedicated project manager on Strong Tower, and that person will be you know, they'll be the contact man for the homeowner, that sort of thing. So
Sure.
yeah, I guess your question was, are we running more than one job at a time? And the answer is yes. Yeah, definitely. It all depends. We've done as many as, 6 at one time, which is about my tipping point. That's enough for me. That's plenty. But at any one time we'll have 2 or 3 running for sure.
Nice. Yeah, so what's the rest of your team look like? So it's you. You've got a logistics person.
I got a logistics person who's also kind of he's actually going to start operating our small jobs division. So we call it our home improvement division, and that's anything that doesn't require anything structural. That's like window replacement. We live in a vacation area. We live on the land between the lakes area, so there's a lot of vacation homes here. Um, a lot of times they just need some basic maintenance done and have no idea who to call. So we're going to be that. We're starting that division so we can handle those small little jobs, with the idea that uh, we get our foot in the door for the big remodels later down the road.
Nice.
So Jacob's going to handle that, and he handles the logistics for me right now. Um, so it's really just the two of us right now, and then we outsource, bookkeeping, um, and accounting. And then we just have we're building a really good bench of subs. There's some subs that have been with us for a long time, and they're my favorite guys. I love working with them. And it's like they read your mind after a while. They know what you want, they know what you need, they know what you expect. But we're trying to, because we're so rural, we have to make our footprint a little bit bigger to um, capture the gross profit margin that we want to. So we're looking at pushing into different areas right now and developing relationships with subcontractors kind of out of our immediate area. So that's kind of what I focus on.
Okay. Where are you finding your subs? I mean, that's obviously, if you're in a small rural town, I mean, that can be very, very
Yeah.
limiting population. I
Yeah.
mean, how's that?
So so I would tell people not to sleep on opportunities like the Home Builders Association, BNI. If you're in a networking group of some kind, that's huge, by the way. Um, go out and meet realtors. Go take realtors out for coffee. Tell them what you do. Um, what else? Vendors are huge. Like your local lumber supplier. That's key, especially in a rural market. That's really, really big. So those are the big ones right there for us is just getting out in the community, um, networking with other individuals, getting involved with the Home Builders Association, sponsoring your kids' soccer team never hurts. Plus, it's fun. Um, so that's how we're developing most of our relationships. We did try a home show last year. It was a small home show, and we had a good time. And it was more or less just kind of supporting the community. We didn't really see. We did meet. We did meet. I take that back. We did meet a plum. We did develop a plumber relationship there, but we didn't really generate many leads or anything. But it was more or less just community support.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, it sounds like kind of you're really working it from a networking standpoint. You know, what about your leads? So, what is your marketing funnel, your marketing process look like? How are people finding out about you these days?
Yeah, we're trying to get more scientific with that too right now. And so that's gonna be coming up here real quick. We're gonna get really in depth with our marketing funnel because we do want to expand our footprint. So, but right now, the majority of the ways folks are finding us are one, we work for their neighbor. Two, we've done work for them in the past and they're a repeat customer. Um, we work with a couple real estate agents that are just rock stars, and every time they have something pop up, we are the guy they call. And so I mean, there's been a couple new home builds out of that relationship that have been just wonderful. Right now we're just kind of growing it super organically,
Yeah.
but we are working with some folks and we will have some really cool lead funnel magnet thingies coming up here really quick. It's gonna be fun.
And so, do you guys have a website now, or is that something that's still in the works?
It's kinda still in the works right now, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not ready for public consumption yet.
Yeah. I mean, I know a lot of people think it's really important to kind of sort of just build the reputation first and then be able to start kind of adding the marketing as you've started to get traction. You've got some of that social proofing. I mean, I definitely encourage you to get that website up there, as soon as you
Oh,
can,
yeah,
because Google
for
just
sure.
values, longevity. So just having it published and you can keep
Absolutely.
updating it.
Absolutely, absolutely. We do get a lot of phone calls, through, Google, at reading re we're able to track that. Folks are able to read our reviews, and we do get a lot of folks because we're in a vacation area, we work for a lot of folks that don't live here all the time,
Mm.
and so they'll get our phone number, through, the Google Business.
Yeah. And so to get those reviews, I mean, what's your process?
Super easy. When we finish a job, we just ask the homeowner, "Hey, would you mind leaving us a review? We thoroughly enjoyed working for you, and it really just helps grow our business." I don't think anybody's ever turned us down. They might forget for
Yeah.
weeks to do it, but nobody's ever said, "Yeah, no, we're not doing that." Um, they're generally they want to see if they already know, like, and trust you, and you had a good experience through the whole job. More than likely, they're gonna, they'll be glad to leave you a review.
Yeah. Yeah. And so if they do forget, are you following up? Like, is there a
Yeah, yeah, we'll kinda hit them back up with a text message after a while, like,
yeah.
"Hey, is it still working good for you? Would you mind leaving us a review, please?"
Yeah.
So
So when you kind of think back, about the journey that you've had, because obviously, I mean, you started from scratch, and you have built
Right.
this thing, and you've continually improved. What would you
Yep.
say was the hardest thing about, creating this business, as a business owner? What were the toughest things for you that kept you up at night?
That's a good question. Uh, oh man, that's a really good question. Um, well, first of all, answering the question of whether or not I could even do this. There were days where I really wanted to hang this thing up. Like I'm just like, this is horrible. But probably I had to swallow a lot of pride and ask for help. And I should have done that a lot sooner. A whole lot sooner. There's so like you said earlier, there's guys that have been on this journey and have succeeded, and there's mentors and coaches out there all over the place. I wish I would have done that a long time ago. I really, really do. I think we'd be further down the road. Uh, that being said, everything happens for a reason, right? So we're where we're at because of where we started, and we're moving forward. And so every every step backward was a lesson. There was a lesson there to learn. There's more lessons in those moments than there are in our successes anyway.
Yeah.
So that
So
was the
how
stuff that really kept me up at night, was like, how are we gonna keep the lights on kind of thing? Like
Yeah.
how like are we, man, we gotta go sell a job real quick. That
Yeah.
sort of thing.
So do you, like, how far out do you kind of plan? Like, do you have, like, an annual goal that you set? Do you have monthly goals? Like, how do you know if you're tracking and progressing?
Sure. Oh, right now I just had an annual goal, Eric. So um and actually, I mean, you know, just by default, yeah, if you have an annual goal, you have a monthly goal. So we're able to track monthly and see where we're going. Um, and with Jacob on board, Jacob has more of a uh, an accounting background than I do. He's an accounting, and then he switched over to construction management before he graduated with a degree. So he's super to have in house to help with looking at numbers and tracking and that sort of thing. He's very numbers focused guy.
Yeah.
So it's nice having him sit across the room from me because he's on that stuff all the time. So he's constantly updating me on where we're at.
Yeah. It's awesome. So where do you wanna be? Like, what's the
Mm,
longer term vision? And, what kind of, maybe, 5 years out, what do you
yeah.
want the company to look like?
Well, I wanna work myself out of a job, Eric, is what I want. I wanna fade into the background. I really don't care if people even know my name after a while. Uh, I want Strong Tower to be known for building strong people as well as strong projects, so I really want to empower not only the folks that are directly employed by us, but our subcontractors. You know, um, I think the trades in general, I think I think, tradesmen in general have taken a black eye over the years, and maybe we brought it upon ourselves, but I kinda wanna help guys, um, I wanna help people become better people. So that's the covert mission of Strong Tower, you know, building good projects. That's cool. That's really kinda fun. We get to build some really neat stuff, and we get to work for some really cool homeowners, but I wanna help build some really good people, whatever that looks like. From guys being the good dads, good husbands, little league coaches, uh, to being financially literate, to avoid a lot of the pitfalls that we've, all seemed to share in this career, and to enjoy what they're doing, to help them improve their craft, but really just to make them better people all the way around.
Sure.
So I see myself in the next 5 years really focusing more on the recruiting and training kind of thing. I still enjoy working with the homeowners. Um, I still enjoy the craft. I don't get out in the field anymore, and that's okay. The guys that work for us are much better craftsmen than I ever could imagine to be. But I've really kind of fallen in love with like timber framing here lately. So I'm really hoping that we can really step into that space and start building some of these really, really cool timber frame projects. Um, and then, yeah, um, you know, develop a company like a legacy company where, um, if my kids so decide they want to step in and be part of this, there's a spot here for them. If the guys working for me now, uh, decide, hey, this is going pretty well, maybe we can take over. And yeah, I just kind of come in once a month, see how things are going. Mm, Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I think, what you said about just really focusing on the people and developing great people. I mean, I believe at the end of the day, that has been the secret sauce of every business I've been involved in, is when you build a great team, and both, your employees, subcontractors, whoever it may be, your vendors, suppliers, like when they respect you and when they trust you and they enjoy working with you, like that helps them fulfill their own need. And so I think, like, the more that you can continue to focus on building a great culture and make your company a great company for people to engage with, when they see your passion. I mean, you're clearly passionate about, everything that you're doing. And I think that is, what probably kept you going, when it was the toughest, lowest times.
oh yeah,
It's that passion for love, loving the build, loving the value that you're bringing to the homeowners, the passion for your team and helping be there for them. Like, those are the things that will keep you going through the toughest times. And you clearly already have that. Now it kind of transitions to, okay, how do we build a team and build a culture where that can transpire and go beyond just you and your
right.
immediate employees.
One of the lessons we just recently had to learn with the whole culture building thing is like some of the guys don't want to come along with you. They're just not a good fit. And for whatever reason, they just don't see the vision or they don't see the value, and um they just have to leave,
Yeah.
and that's a tough one. That's really tough. That's no fun at all.
Yeah.
Whether you ask them to leave or they decide to leave. That's but you know, you have to look at the overall scheme of things. Um so yeah, when you build this thing, you want to bring as many people along as possible, but you
Yeah.
also got to remember that not everybody's a good fit. And that can be a tough one too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, my one of my favorite, kind of sayings is Jim Collins, in his book From Good to Great. He talked about the importance of get the right people on the bus, the right people
People
in the
on the
right
bus.
seats, and the wrong people off the bus. That I think is one of the hardest things, at least for me, to have to let somebody go is just, it is such a blow, because that you're basically putting them back out on the street, and that they got to go find and figure out
Yeah,
what they're going to do and how they're going to feed their
absolutely.
family. But at the end of the day, like, that's why we're in charge, right? We have to make those tough calls. And as much as, sometimes you wish people would just kind of take themselves out, they don't always, kind of see the writing on the wall, and they don't recognize that they're not performing. And so I think as leaders, we have to do the best job we can, sort of coaching them along the way, giving them that feedback. We can't expect people to read our minds and just kind of know. You really do need to take the time to try to train them, try to give them that feedback, give them the opportunities to improve. But at the end of the day, it's not always going to work. And
Correct.
you can't let one bad apple spoil the entire bunch, or that can bring down the morale for everyone. And even
A
worse
ab
is when that affects the homeowner.
Oh, yeah, 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 and believe me, if you don't take care of it quick, that's the ultimate is when the homeowner sees it, you're like, "Oh my gosh, um, I should have stepped in as a leader a little bit sooner here,"
Yeah.
because if your homeowner mentions it, yeah, you kicked it down the road too far. That's your lesson right there. You should have nipped it in the bud a while ago.
Yeah. So when you're looking at bringing someone on, like, what traits are you looking for? What qualities, characteristics, both whether it's an employee or a trade partner,
Yeah.
like, or
So skill level doesn't mean a whole lot. We can train a whole lot of things. We can teach a whole lot of things, or we can send you to some kind of training. We can't help you with character. Um, we I'm I'm big on character. Um, if you don't have it, sorry. I don't know what to tell you.
yeah,
Uh, but that's something we look real heavily at is just who you are as a person. Uh, yeah, I mean, we care about who you are. That's for sure, and how you're gonna fit in here. So, um,
how do you
that
flush that out though?
man, and that's a
It's
tough one. That's a
yeah,
really tough one. The best way to do it. I mean, I've never had to get really deep in the weeds with it because the folks that we've brought on, we've kind of known, through associating with them on in different levels, and so we kinda had a good idea of who they already were.
yeah,
So, maybe, that's a networking thing, through your network, you find the people that way that kind of like that like, and trust,
yeah,
Um, that might be, an option for somebody, but, I mean, I think if you just spend some time with them and just talk with them and you just get an impression of how they handle things. How do they handle good things? How do they handle bad things? Um, I mean, just spending time with people
yeah,
is how you get a sense of who they are.
yeah. No, we
We don't always have that kind of time though, I mean, that's
yeah.
the tough part is like you can't spend a week with a guy. Uh, so I don't have a very good answer like how you narrow it down to what they're like, but
Yeah, no, we struggle with the same thing. I mean, it's you want to try to spend enough time with them to really get a good feeling, for them and how they handle situations. Looking at their track record. We always ask for references, call their
sure.
references, see how did they perform? Would you recommend them? Now, obviously, hopefully no one's giving you a bad reference, so you still got to take that with a grain of salt. But for us, I mean, we'll basically do someone on our team will do an initial call with them, kind of talk about the position, kind of just sort of do kind of the high level surface stuff, and then we typically will have either them talk with their direct kind of manager next, or we'll either go straight to a case where we give them an exercise where that gives us an opportunity to kind of test some of their skills, whether it's
Sure.
kind of doing something in particular or kind of writing up, and creating a video themselves, kind of creating some content where we can again further assess them. But then we bring them in for a team interview, and we have them spend hour and a half, 2 hours with the broader team, and sometimes after that, if we're still not sure, we might invite them back and do another, hey, let's go to lunch or let's go spend some time outside of the office. Like, is this someone that, I want to hang out with and have a beer and really get to know, like, are they a good person that,
Right.
that I would trust around my family and my kids? And
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah. We do that now. Jacob for the small jobs division, he administers a self-assessment test.
nice.
So like when the guys come in and he brings a group of guys in at a time too, by the way. He doesn't bring in like one guy at a time. He'll bring a group of guys in
Right.
and so you're able to watch them kind of interact with each other. And then they have a self-assessment skills test. So, you can tell like and you tell the guys on the self-assessment test to score themselves as honestly as possible because like if you're hired for the job and you tell me that you know how to float concrete and you score yourself super high, but we have to go rip all the concrete out that you did, we obviously know you're lying.
Yeah.
Um, so that's very interesting to watch. So
Yeah.
you kind of put them in a situation where yeah, maybe it's not so comfortable, and you see how
Yeah.
they react.
I love that, man. It's again, it's all about it's so important to do your due diligence up front and take that extra time than to just bring people on just to bring them on, or because it's like, especially if it's a trade partner and like you're literally the first experience, you're sending them out to a job. I mean, you're risking your reputation with that
Absolutely,
customer, which could ultimately come back and bite you even worse if they get on and they give you a bad review. And so it's
absolutely.
important to know them.
Yeah, yeah, you think about, like, would you want this fella in your customer's home? Would your customer want this guy? Most customers really aren't terribly excited about seeing a tradesman show up at their house. They're just not,
Yeah.
you know? So, you know, would your customer be okay with this fella showing up at their door?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, look, John, I appreciate you coming on and kind of sharing a little bit
absolutely.
more about your journey. I mean, kind of as we wrap up, I mean, I'm curious, like, what advice, like, if you could just give a couple pieces of advice to people who may be earlier on in their career, maybe they're still feeling like they're, they're chucking the truck, running themselves ragged, can't figure out how to make money. What advice and what guidance would you give them that you feel has helped you along the way, or something that now that you wish you would have known back
Sure.
then?
Well, first of all, we've all started out as Chuck in the truck. So don't beat yourself up over that. But also know that you need to grow past that. I would say uh if I were to do it all over again, I would ask for help immediately, business help. I would find every business resource that I could, specifically geared towards construction. There are guys that are out there that have been there, done that in this space, and they've done very, very well. Whether that be online, whether that be an in-person mentor, they are out there. So I would highly recommend you find somebody like that, uh, to help you. Um, I would also, uh, consume as much content as possible, like podcasts, construction books, that sort of thing. Um, Honing your craft is seems to be the easy thing. That's the easy part. That's so easy. There's so much information about it. And even now, it's not that part's not even as secretive as it used to be, so you can YouTube just about anything and figure out how to cut a you know, how do you cut a roof? You can you can learn that on your own. The business stuff, those that information's out there too. You just got to dig a little bit more for it. But I would just say, get involved, find other guys in your area, uh, network with them, ask tons and tons of questions, and just yeah, make the introductions, meet the people that can help you along.
Yeah, man, nailed it, man. That is great feedback, great advice. I hope everyone out there is has really taken note, because again, John, you came in here and you opened up about your journey, and I'm so glad to see that you've stuck at it. You didn't let what probably put 9 out of 10 other contractors under and led them to throw in the towel. You kept going, and you decided to double down on yourself. You found a coach, you found resources, you studied up, and you made the hard changes. You put your ego aside, you let the bookkeeper, you let the numbers tell the truth, and you learned and you grew. And that is what has helped you to get from being that solo owner operator to now having a team, being able to take on multiple jobs at one time, take on much larger projects. And again, it's a continual work in progress. It's a continual effort to keep improving and to keep stepping up the game. And I'm excited to see where the next several years take you, because I see what you're doing today, and you're making all the right moves. So it'll be
Thank you.
exciting to see how you can kind of keep growing the business, and hopefully 5 years
Yeah,
you're focused on just building a great team and investing in people,
absolutely.
and can see it all come to fruition here.
Yeah, yeah. One more thing. Uh, don't rest on your laurels, and don't forget to celebrate the little victories along the way too. Take time to celebrate every now and then. That's so important.
I love that, man. That is a huge one for me too. I think it's easy to get caught in the in the rat race, and it's just there's always going to be more things that are going to come up and that you're going to have to focus on. But like, you got to take a little bit of time after each project, after each month, whenever it may be. Take some time with you, with your team, even your crews. Like, just celebrate those wins. Like, and I would take it one step further. Provide recognition for those who did a great job. Call
Absolutely.
them out, give them a little something extra, even if it's just, that public recognition that, hey man, like, that job was awesome. You did a great job. Like, that goes so far, and it doesn't cost you anything to recognize, and just that will continue to motivate others to keep doing a great job. So don't forget to celebrate those wins and recognize the team, because ultimately that's what you got here. This is a people business.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. This is not something that AI is totally going to replace, you know?
That's right. All right. Well, on that note, John, again, I appreciate you coming on and sharing all
Yes,
this.
sir.
I look forward to seeing your continued success.
Absolutely. Thank you, Eric.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Builder Stories. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and gained valuable insights that can help you in your journey along the way. Don't forget to subscribe to the show and leave us a review. And as always, if you or someone you know has a story to share, please contact us at builderstories.com. We'd love to hear from you. I'm Eric Fortenberry, and remember, every builder has a unique story. Keep building yours.